Hello, good evening, good day, everybody, and welcome to the 258th episode of the Ask Abhijit show. I hope everybody is doing fantastic. This is a super chat live stream. I've turned super chats back on today. Yesterday, I did not take any super chats, so super chats are back on. But before we begin with the questions, let me see who all is there on the live stream, on the live chat. I can say GK, Jay Guman, Poor Man, Chatresh Kashyap, Shivasai, Vicky, Manohar, Siddesh Patil, Tushar Kalburgi, Global Citizen, Samarth Tripathi, Unga Bunga, Anant Chandak, Avinash, Hunter Kenvi, Anonymous Scientist, Hola, Sonia Sinha, Samarth Tripathi again, Geopolitical Dubey from Indore, Shivasai, Unknown, Basant007, Rahul Dunake, ICMBs, Ashish Karan, Amar Singh, Devil, Pratham Soni, Diling Pengu from Assam, hello, Junai. Who else do we have? Saral Sharma, Anand Chandak, MB, Brijesh SK, Noise X, NC Puneet, Yashwant Sudhir, Shubh Agarwal, Shiva Darshan S, Aditya Jaiswal, Sanchari, Sai Sasank, Anudipta Sen, Dhruv Dhuria, Nitin Kumar, Mystic SK, McLovin from Superbad, Vishal Patro, Advait Mehta, Priyanka Javalia, Neha Sharma, Editopia, Maj Hail 06M50, Chitan Aradhya, Shreyas Mishra, really now. Who else? Aditya Jaiswal, Bandekar, Bhauji, Dr. Ritvik Patnaik from Bhuvaneshwar. Oh, wonderful. Good. Rahul Thakkar, Prashant Kumar, Rudra Avatar, and so many other people. I'm going to stop the greetings over here and let's take some questions. So, Vidhi Ji is there, Nationalist is there, Arya Diwan, and so on and so forth. Okay. Thank you so much, all of you, for being on the live stream. Let me take some questions now. Super chats today. So, Pratham Soni says, see you as mentor. Thank you so much. As every country has its character, can you tell 5 prominent characters of the Indian civilization? Every country has its own character. 5 prominent characters of the Indian civilization. Oh, we have Lord Ram, we have Shri Krishna, we have Vishnugupta Chanakya. That's 3. We have Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, and we have the great Chola, Father Son duo, Rajendra and Rajaraj Chola. I think that's 5. I could give 50 more, I'm sure. Tremendous people we have produced. Tremendous people. But there we have it. At least 5 prominent characters of the Indian civilization. We have the people who wrote the verses, the shlokas of the Rig Veda, men and women, and so many other people. I mean, I could go on. But yeah, 5, if you say 5, here you have 5. I think I give you 6. Devil says, during the invasions, many people won, many died, and many went into exile. My question is, what struggles did the Dalit people face at the time? I am not a historian of Dalit history. I have no idea. I think we all faced struggles together as a civilization, and it is a very foreign imposition on us that we want to slice our civilization and our population into opposing groups, and we want to deconstruct Indian society and then look at struggles from a very particular group's position. We all face struggles together, but the British and the Westerners have taught us to see ourselves not as a unified civilization, but as separate opposing groups. And that's why we want to look at what did this group face and what did that group face. And my group has been oppressed for 10,000 years by the white Aryan invaders, all that nonsense. These are all lies. These are lies that are devised to make us fight ourselves, fight each other. And they have told your teachers, your professors, your textbooks, they've put all these lies into your head that so-and-so group was oppressed by so-and-so other group in India for thousands of years. And India's culture is a foreign imposition. Sanskrit is foreign to India. Hinduism is foreign to India. And there was a caste system that was used to oppress lower castes. All of this has been created by outsiders to make us fight each other. So that's what I have to say about this matter. I have nothing further to say about this. Ashish Karan says, why does breakthrough research require billions of dollars, hundreds of personnel, etc., and not in basement of geeks or small scale whatever? Are we at a point in history where low-hanging fruits in research are mostly been plucked? Maybe not. When it comes to technologies like AI, you need tremendous amounts of power to power the GPUs, electricity. So power is going to be a bottleneck when it comes to AI, to further development in the scale and complexity and power of AI systems. So when it comes to AI, and AI is the very most visible example, and robotics is another most visible example of technological breakthrough research. Um, so it looks like these days everything is like massively super scaled. Everything requires billions, maybe trillions of dollars, etc. But there could be technological breakthroughs that could happen in someone's basement. And what those could be, I don't know, but it could happen. There's always a cycle of this. When some technology takes off and it becomes bigger and bigger at scale, and then something else comes and upsets everything. So yeah, at this point in time, it's like that. The technologies that are so visible, they require tremendous investments. That's why they happen at the scale of governments and companies and countries and super corporations. But I'm sure some other things will crop up sooner or later. ICMB says, if Chiang Kai-shek won, how would India's ties with China be different? You see, if you want to see what kind of ties we would have with the Chinese government if Chiang Kai-shek won, all you have to do is see the attitude of the Taiwanese government towards India. The Taiwan government considers itself to be the legitimate government of all of China, by the way. And they claim Indian territory, just like the Chinese Communist Party. They claim Arunachal Pradesh. They claim Aksai Chin. They claim so and so forth the other territories. So that if the Kuomintang won Chiang Kai-shek's party, I think we would have had a similar set of issues with them. So the problem is not China. The problem is us, actually, that we allowed them to capture Tibet. We should not have allowed the Chinese to set foot in Tibet. We should have defended Tibet at our own expense. We should have done that because that was vital for our national security. So it would have made no difference if Chiang Kai-shek won. He would also have had, if the Kuomintang also would have had a very similar approach to the Chinese Communist Party when it comes to India. Anonymous scientist says, how bad are Israeli strikes in Iran? Will there be a regime change in Iran? I have just briefly seen what happened. It looks like they've done a decapitation strike on the top leadership in the military and the various nuclear scientists, etc. I have just barely glanced at the news, so I don't know. This is not a breaking news show that we do here. This is the deep analysis show that we do here, whether it's the geostrategy show or the Indian interest show, or this Q&A show. So I've just barely glanced at what happened. I don't have a deeply, properly informed view right now of what's happened. Maybe I will have a better understanding tomorrow of what's happened. Will there be a regime change in Iran? I hope there is no regime change in Iran. There are lots of these idiotic 30 IQ Indian right-wingers who are celebrating right now. Yes, Israel, our great friend, full support. Israel has struck at Iran, this Islamic nation. Those idiots have no idea what Iran represents for us. Because right now you have a regime that is run by the ayatollahs and mullahs in Iran, and they force their women into burqas and so on and so forth. My position on this is very clear. This is an internal matter of the Iranian people and the Iranian nation. It has nothing to do with me. If the Iranian people are apparently unhappy, let's say, then they should take it up with their government. We should not interfere in this matter. It has nothing to do with us. But remember, before the regime of the ayatollahs and the mullahs, the current regime, before that you had the regime of Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, a democratic Iran, where women could wear short skirts and nobody would bother them. Great. But what was their geopolitical outlook? They supported the US. They supported Pakistan. In 1965, they supported Pakistan in the India-Pakistan War, 1965. And they were a US vassal. Do you want a situation where even Persia is a US vassal? Right now, you already have Pakistan, a US vassal, and Trump is going all out in favor of Pakistan. Now, imagine that problem being magnified tenfold with Persia also becoming a US vassal. Imagine that scenario. Do you want that scenario to exist, to occur? I don't understand these idiotic 30 IQ Indian right-wingers who are jumping and dancing that Israel has hit Iran. It will be a disaster for India if there's a regime change and a pro-US regime comes to power in Iran, it will be an absolutely unprecedented disaster for India. So that is my position on this. I would like the regime of the mullahs and the ayatollahs to continue in Iran. At least they are not anti-India. NTN 888 says, Sir prefers dictatorship, monarchy over democracy. Every dictator state got bad rights, censorship, no media freedom. Is this not worth high development, etc., etc., etc.? Tell me something, sir, ma'am, whoever you are. If you look back at Indian history, yes, when was the last time we had a great ruler in this country? Possibly it was Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. Last time we had a great ruler. And obviously the various Peshwas who came after him. Tell me something. Were they democratically elected by the people of India? Did they allow the people to vote against them? These were monarchs, in other words, dictators. Was Rajaraja Chola democratically elected? And did he transfer power to his son Rajendra Chola democratically after the people voted for Rajendra Chola? What utter nonsense. This was a dictatorship. Nobody dared question the king, the emperor. What about the great Kumaragupta, Chandragupta, Skandagupta, etc. of the Gupta Empire? Were they democratically elected? Did they transfer power after getting the people's votes? But India did tremendously well during these times, right? What about Kanishka the Kushal? The great, one of the greatest emperors we've had. Was he a democratically elected emperor? What about Lord Krishna when he was king of Dwarka? Did the people vote him to power? What about Lord Ram? Was he a democratically elected leader? So when his father Dashrath is handing over the throne to his son, did he ask the people for a vote? What are you people dreaming of, and what world are you living in? We've always had dictatorships in India, and it's always turned out well for India. The current present system is the problem, and that's why we have this low standards all over the place in India. And even if you want to change something, you can't. And you see obvious problems that are terrible for India. 100 million Bangladeshis, Rohingyas, cookies, and Pakistanis in India. You think a dictator would have tolerated that? This incredibly gigantic national security threat. So I would say you can sometimes have bad dictators like Kans, like Jarasandh, like Mahapadmananda, etc. But as long as the Indian monarchy is guided by the constitution, which is dharma, it is a very low chance of happening, and so on. So that's what I have to say about this. Yes. Really now says no concern about Korean aviation after Jeju crash. Well, that's how it goes. Hardik Joshi says, okay, thank you so much. How safe is flying anymore? I don't mean fatally, but things going wrong in close calls. Also, thanks for teaching how to think instead of what to think. Yeah, you're welcome. Look, I think overall flying is safe. I fly all the time. And day before yesterday, I was in an Air India flight. Day before yesterday. And day before yesterday, also I was in an Air India flight. So look, overall, I think India is one of the safest countries for flying. And I hope that what's happened, this extremely sad thing that's happened, at least it will prompt a much deeper scrutiny by the government of India and the regulators, etc., into the aviation safety standards and procedures and protocols that we have in the country, which will obviously have the effect of making flying even safer in India. So overall, I think we should not be worried. We should not be scared. Overall, India is very safe. I think it's safer than most countries, and let's not worry about it. Okay. Literally, Officer K says, once again, Israel is full support, sir, full support, right? Indians love Israel. Let me show you something. Indians love Israel unconditionally. Indians give full support, sir, to Israel at all times, right? Let me show you something. Let me put something on the screen. And Indian right-wingers are right now dancing on the aisles because Israel has hit Iran. So this is a tweet by the Israel Defense Forces. Okay. Now they put it out after my tweet. After my tweet. See the map of Israel, India put out by our Israeli friends. So they put out this map of Iran being allegedly a global threat, blah 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 blah, and so on. Now let's look at the map. Let's look at the map of India they've put out. They've given Kashmir and much more to Pakistan. This is something Israel does over and over again. Once I pointed this out, and the Israeli ambassador had to apologize and to pull the map down. The Israeli ambassador had to apologize and pull the map down after my tweet. But once again, they are back at it. Right? And they have also shown Arunachal Pradesh as part of China. Well, that's so nice of our Israeli friends. That's so nice of our Israeli friends. Let us see. Oh yes, Arunachal Pradesh is missing. They have given Arunachal Pradesh to China. They've given Kashmir and maybe some part of Punjab also to Pakistan. That's lovely. And there is no Andamans for us, apparently. And so on. So this is what Israel does. It's not the first time the Israelis have done this. They do this over and over again. But Indians will keep worshipping Israel. I have nothing personal against Israel, by the way. Absolutely nothing. There's a lot to admire in Israel about what Israel does. But to imagine that they are some super friend of ours, and what world are you living in? Yeah. So this is not a silly mistake. This is a pattern. It's a pattern you see over and over again with Israel, especially when it comes to the maps of India. So I don't know. I keep on pointing this out, but Indians will never learn. Indians are. I don't know what to say about Indians. So here we have it. Dr. Ritvik Patnaik says, what if the Axis powers won World War II? Impact on India? Would India become a vassal country under German Japan with Subhash Bose's puppet prime minister? Look, these what if scenarios, you can make any kind of story from a what if scenario. Of course, you can do a proper forecasting like I do in geostrategy, etc. But what is the point is my question. What is the point of exploring these fictitious scenarios, alternative history scenarios? What's the point? Yeah, so if the Axis powers won World War II, maybe we would be speaking in Deutsch. Ich sprachen in Deutsch. And so on. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, etc. And would India become vassal country with Subhash Bose's puppet PM? How dare you call Subhash Bose a puppet PM? How dare you? Look, it's an exercise in futility. What's the point? I don't get it. Maybe we would be speaking German, or maybe we would be speaking arigato Japanese. Yes, Japanese. And so on. Aries Manticore says, in case of World War III, do we stand alone objectively, or are we forced to treat the whole world as potentially adversarial with neither side willing to accept us? We focus on becoming a silent third world power. In the case of World War III, there's no point of thinking anything because the world will end. You people don't understand what World War III means, right? World War III means the end of the world. That's what it means. It means nuclear exchange between the US and Russia. That's what World War III means. There is no standing aside. Everybody dies. That's what World War III means. There is no taking sides and blah, blah in World War III. Once the nuclear exchange happens, it's over. Over for everybody, no matter where you are. Okay, Bhaskar says, my question is in this super chat comment. Well, I don't see a question, but thank you for the $40, sir. What can I say? If you have a question, please ask, right? What's the point of this? Geopolitical Dubai says, does I2U2 still exist? I think it still exists on paper, and maybe it will be taken up at some point in time. But what is the I2U2? It is it's not the IMEC, I2U2. It's India, Israel, USA, and UAE. I think that's what I2U2 was, and I think it still exists, but I'm not sure if there is work being done on that, and I'm not sure if it's an active thing that we engage in. So I think it pops up from time to time, but it's not something that is actively being pursued right now. That's the guess. That's the sense that I get, because I've not heard of I2U2 for a while, and it's slipped past my my mental horizon for some time now. Vicky says, do you think Israel is our friend seeing our map? Well, you tell me. Who am I to say? I can only show you the map, and now you people decide. You people have a brain, right? You people are capable of thinking, yes. Now, do I have to tell you? Do I have to chew the food and then put it in your mouth? Really? You tell me, Vicky. Will a friend do that to you? You tell me. Advait Mehta says, Shah back in Iran, what would it mean for India? It means disaster for India. It means a pro US vassal back in power in Persia, and pro US means pro Pakistan, which means that both Pakistan and Persia will be anti India. Do you want that? No, thank you. Um, really now says, how come ancient China had harem and slaves, dharma? China was not a dharmic nation as such. The emperors never followed dharma. They always followed Confucianism. They always followed legalistic practices that started with Huangdi, possibly. It's been a while since I read Chinese history, so I may be a little blurry on that. But the Chinese emperors were never Buddhist or Hindu, whatever. They never practiced that. It is the Chinese people that practiced that. Chinese kings did become Buddhists, and they fought each other for the privilege of hosting some of the Indian gurus who would travel to China. But the emperors, the top dog, would never be a Buddhist. They would always be Confucians. And in Confucianism, there is no God, there's no morality. So there we have it. Sharma says, many white men are really into Latinos. A man being into a Latino instead of a Latina. Okay, whatever rocks your boat, guys. So many white men are really into Latinos. And brown men are notorious for being into white women. Me, okay, Sharma is into white women. Good for you, bro. So are men hardwired to seek out genetic diversity? I think that could be, valid thing. Genetic diversity makes sense. It gives you hardier offspring and so on. So yeah, it could be a genetically hardwired thing that men are genetically hardwired to be promiscuous, actually. Okay, that's a fact. It's something you know from historical evidence. What did the Yamnaya do? That's what they did. Kill all the men and take all the women. That's what the Turks did. That's what the Arabs did. That's what every rapacious culture did. So I think men are hardwired to do that, and women are hardwired genetically to do something different, to settle with one partner. And when it comes to a civilized existence, I think the way of the women wins, because a partner that gives you a stable society. But what you're saying makes sense. I think men could be hardwired to seek out genetic diversity. It makes sense from a genetic perspective to have a partner that's way more different than you genetically, which ensures that you will have very hardy offspring with the good traits from both sides. So yeah, it makes sense, I think. Okay, Grok says Asim Munir in US news was fake. Why was it spreaded? He has not reached the US. Who's saying that? He's been invited to go to the US. I think he will go there. Paras Virdi says, why is India not focusing on AI? Well, did you watch the Indian interest episode that I just did? We are super focusing on AI. We're going to have machine guns and all kinds of weapon systems that will have AI integrated into them. So I think it's happening. It's not all over the news. It's not front page news and all, but India is taking AI very, 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 very seriously now. Trust me, it is. We are taking it very seriously. Maybe not at the LLM level and chatbots level, which is, but at the military level. And when you do stuff at the military level, you don't talk about it. Okay? So Naman Chavda says, or Namanji Namaste. Naman Chavda says, I think China having Pakistan under its influence is a good thing. That way, India has to prepare for essentially the same weapons in case of a war. No, it's not necessarily a good thing. I mean, I know what you're trying to say, that, okay, we don't have to worry about this weapon, that weapon system, etc. We'll only have one set of weapon systems all over the place. But let's assume that China has actually some very sophisticated weapons. Do you want the goddamn Pakistanis to have those? Do you want them to have those, really? It's not a good thing from that perspective. But overall, it's not something we can control. So the Pakistanis, we'll see, they're gonna have a mishmash of weapons. They will have some Turkish weapons, they'll have some American weapons, and they're gonna have some Chinese weapons. And the Americans will keep helping them in a variety of ways. refurbishing their F-16s, giving them bailouts from the IMF and the World Bank and whatnot. And the Chinese will sell them J-35 fighter planes and various advanced radar systems and whatnot. It's going to continue. But from the perspective of imagining that the Pakistanis will have only Chinese weapons, it's not correct. They will also have Turkish weapons. They'll also have American weapons, which actually makes it a nightmare for India to have to contend with the possibility of all these different kinds of weapon systems being used simultaneously against us. But we can take care of it for sure. Tanmay Pant says communist historians say that Delhi's Sultanate's Amir Khusrau is the person behind Hindi language or Khari Boli. Isn't Prithviraj Raso Proto-Hindi? See, the Hindi language or the Hindvi language, it is an Indian language, but unfortunately it has been infused with all these foreign words, Turkic words and Arabic words. So many words I can tell you, which are of, for example, the Hindi word mulayim, it means bland in Turkish. The word jigar, which means, I don't know what, some organ, it means liver, chigir in Turkish. The word tawa, for that flat surface on which you cook, it's a Turkish word. And there are so many Arabic words across Hindi. So and Persian words also. I have no issue with Persian words because it's a sister language, daughter language of Sanskrit, and so on. But all of this happened because of the amalgamation of the languages. So in the Turkic courts, you would have people who would speak local languages, Prakrit based languages like Proto-Hindi, etc., Proto-Awadhi, etc. And there will be people speaking Turkic languages like Chagatai, etc. There will be people speaking Persian, so people speaking Arabic. So all of this eventually got mixed up in one single language. It evolved like a mongrel language. So it has the grammatical structure, etc., and a lot of vocabulary of a Prakrit language, Sanskrit-derived language, Apabhransh language, with lots of words that came from other foreign languages. But I would not say Amir Khusrau is behind the Hindi language. I mean, he wrote some poetry in the Hindi of that time. If you try to read it today, you won't understand a goddamn word of it, right? So communist historians will give all kinds of credit to foreigners. That's what they've always done, but we don't need to take them seriously. Ron Senpai says, we see a pattern of that Europe glorifies Egyptians, even though we have evidence of more complex civilizations in the Amazon rainforest, Indus Valley civilization era of India, and so on. Why? I'll tell you why. The West glorifies cultures they have destroyed. Okay? They will only glorify those cultures that they have destroyed. They will glorify those cultures that they have reduced to specimens in a museum or in a zoo. A few months ago, maybe a year or so ago, I watched this Marvel movie called Multiverse of Misery, Multiverse of Madness. Okay? In which there was this scene, I think it's one of these Marvel movies, I think it was Multiverse of whatever, in which there's a scene in which Thor, they've depicted Thor as a loser, alcoholic kind of person. Thor is Indra, by the way, okay? So they've depicted Thor going into a conference of all the gods in the world. There are Polynesian gods, and there are Egyptian gods, and there are Scandinavian gods, and Thor meets Zeus. I mean, are you people crazy? How can you meet yourself? Thor is the Nordic version of the Greek god Zeus. Zeus Pater was Jupiter in Rome, and Zeus Pater was named after Dios Pitru, a Sanskrit name, and that's the representation of Indra. Anyhow, all the gods are represented over there in that conference of the gods. Egyptian gods and some obscure gods are there, etc., etc. But you will not see a single Indian god there. Why? Because they hate Indian gods, because our gods are still free and our culture is still not destroyed. So they will extol the virtues of all the cultures they have destroyed. But they will not do that for Indian gods. Amazon rainforest, that's another example, but they destroyed the cultures of the Amazon region so thoroughly that nothing survives. We don't even know the names of their gods and so on. They destroyed it so thoroughly. The Spaniards. The Spaniards were such utter barbarians. Anyhow, Sikh Mundus says, how far is the future all Indians are middle class or up? and have no more fear of Islam or Ghazwa, whatever. Take ASI into consideration. Listen, I do not answer questions about religious strife, the Hindu Muslim stuff, and all that. I am not the guy for that. I'm not the guy for that. There are other YouTube channels that discuss this threadbare. I do not discuss all these religious strife issues. Hindus fighting Muslims and the threat of this religion and that religion, whatnot. That's not my cup of tea. I will discuss history, geopolitics, science. I should have actually put out a disclaimer today also that I will only take questions about history, geopolitics, science. But I don't take up these questions. Okay? So apologies for that. NC Purit, thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Here Kumar Patel says, what mistakes by US made Russia, India, China sovereign? That's not US mistakes. Russia was always sovereign. China was also sovereign. They had a brief 100-year period in which there was interference, but overall they were sovereign. And the British handing over power to a set of crooks in India was nothing to do with the US. At the time, the US did not have the power to interfere here. So there you have it. Sergeant Skylan says, what should India do about Tejas? I think India should develop the Tejas program, take it to its logical conclusion. Right now, we have various versions, future versions of the Tejas that are being developed. The Tejas should serve as the framework for a whole set of aircraft families for the future, right? And the AMCA is going to be an offshoot of that. All the lessons that we have learned from the development of the Tejas will be incorporated into the AMCA development. So it will be much faster, much better, and so on. And I think the Tejas, I think the Mark 1B or whatever, Mark 2 or whatever it is going to come out. We need to keep developing that. That's what we should do. Aris Manticore says that China has been testing our patience for a long time now. Should we as a country begin a process to permanently decouple from the China? China and US lobbies have long molded us into subservient slaves. Our bigger problem when it comes to mental colonization and molding Indians into subservient slaves, the bigger problem is not China, it is the West. It is the West. It is the fact that we all speak the English language and we see English speaking culture as our culture. That's the big problem. That's how we are so badly influenced by the West. And China is a much bigger power, so you can't say they've been testing our patience. As a much more powerful nation, they will do what they want. So the solution for us is that we should become as powerful as China, eventually more powerful than China. That's easier said than done. So permanently decoupling from China, I agree, we should do that. I mean, why are we technologically dependent on China? Why are we dependent on China for rare earth minerals and rare earth magnets and so much more? It gives China such a big leverage over us. Now they have stopped supplies of rare earth magnets and all that to India. We only have supplies until mid-July. After that, our electric vehicle sector will shut down. I don't understand why we have been so short-sighted. So we need to permanently decouple from China. We need to have multiple sources of everything. We have our own rare earth elements in India, but we have done nothing to extract them. So we have been caught napping, and it will take us some time to decouple properly, but you're right. NC Puneet says, suppose Iran gets nukes. Effect on the world order, well, it will significantly change the world order. Iran will not be that easy to bully then. And overall, it will kind of destabilize the region to a certain extent. It will cause tensions all over the place. I would like Iran to be safe and stable and secure, and I want it to continue to exist the way it is right now. But I would not be a big fan of Iran getting nukes. Then we would have two neighboring nations that would have nukes. Three actually. China, then Pakistan, and also Iran. It's going to significantly complicate issues. So we don't want Iran to get nukes, but Iran could be in a position right now where they may have nukes. They probably have enough fissile material for at least 10 nuclear warheads, maybe more. So yeah, maybe it stabilizes the region. Maybe it's good for Iran. It's definitely good for Iran, I would say. Grok says, why US didn't do something Central Asia to capture rare earths? The US doesn't belong in Central Asia. Central Asia is a region where you have, which comes under Russia's sphere of influence. Russia sees Central Asia as part of its exclusive sphere of influence. So the US have been interfering in Central Asia for quite some time. There's an American University of Central Asia in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan, and so on and so forth. But when it comes to extracting resources, the Russians won't allow that to happen. So Ankita says, what will be the fate of Iran in the future, according to my analysis? Is it going to be transformed into another South Korea, as predicted by some experts? I would not want to see that happen. I hope it doesn't happen. Okay, let's consider the scenarios. Let's say the Israelis attack Iran and try to decapitate the leadership. Iran will have no option but to try and strike at Israel, which starts a hot war in the region. If the Americans try to interfere, the Iranians can hit every single American air base and military base in the region, which starts a big conflagration in the region, big regional conflagration, and oil prices skyrocket, and it's a big mess all over the world. We could be on the doorstep of that scenario right now. Okay, but then what happens? Can the US and Israel come together to destroy Iran? It's possible. You may even have a limited nuclear exchange here. But if Iran, they decide they will destroy Iran, and they destroy Iran, and then they put up a puppet government of some Shah or something in place, if that happens, then it's terrible for the region. So if Iran is to fall, it will probably lead to a nuclear exchange, a limited nuclear exchange in the region, which would be horrible. Horrible. I think that, I hope that sane minds will prevail. But yeah, right now we are at a 50-50 position right now. If Israel continues these strikes, I think Iran will respond significantly, very vigorously, and then you could be on the brink of an all-out war. And that all-out war could end with the destruction of Iran and a regime change in the region, which would be terrible geopolitically for the whole region, and it would be a disaster for India as well. And if this happens, then they will convert Iran into another vassal state like it used to be before the Ayatollahs came to power. And then they will say, then in that case, Iran could eventually become a South Korea-like country, slowly decaying and being destroyed. And yeah, but I hope it doesn't happen. I hope it definitely doesn't happen. So what is my prediction? I think it's too early to predict. I think it's all 50-50 right now. Aditya Raghul says, talk about Iranian Muslim families in Hyderabad, Bangalore. Don't look like Indians, more Caucasoid, that enjoy dual citizenship. Agha, Ali, Askar, Mirza, Ismail, other Mirzas, Shirazis who migrated during 1800s, 1900s. I am not aware of these people. I'm not aware of this history. Don't know. There have been, I can tell you this, that lots of India and Persia were neighboring countries for the longest time. And there have been lots of Persians who migrated to India, and lots of people, Indians who possibly would have migrated to Persia, and so on. I mean, Ayatollah Khomeini's ancestors were from Lucknow, I think. At least one of his ancestors lived in Lucknow for a significant period of time, and so on. So when you are neighboring countries, this sort of exchange happens. It's normal for that to happen. So that's what I can tell you. I am not aware of all these individuals that you have named. That's not part of my focus in historical research. It's not something I'm interested in. So I won't be able to answer in specifics about this because I'm not aware of it. Okay, Shivam Bakshi says, I understand China is collapsing population-wise, but will they manage to maintain a growing economy with AI and robotics? They will try their best to do that. They'll try their best. See, the population is decreasing, which means the population is aging. Soon enough, you will have a population where the average median age is in the 60s, maybe 65. The average person is 65 years old. Imagine that. Everybody's old. So very few people are having kids. That is a disaster. But then you have technological superiority. You are technologically very advanced. So you can marry AI and robotics and have robots do all the work for you. So it doesn't matter whether all your population, whether the majority of your population is old people. It doesn't matter. But how long can you maintain this economy and all that? You can have the robots do all the work for the people, and you can have robots fight wars. You can have robot dogs and robot eagles and robot whatever else is, Tyrannosaurus Rexes, fighting wars for you. But eventually, what happens? Your population is going to collapse and it's going to die out possibly. Then what do you do with it? So I think it's a long-term disaster scenario for China actually, right? But yeah, for the time being, it's a huge threat for India, China. Until the end of the century, they're going to be a big threat. Airs Manticore says World War 2.5 could be AI based before nuke exchange. No, AI based war. That that's not World War 2.5. The next World War is going to have, if it happens, it could end up in a nuclear exchange which will destroy the world. And you already have AI systems being used in warfare. Many of the drones could be autonomous and so on. The anti-personnel drones that you are seeing in the Ukraine conflict, many of these are autonomous drones. So you already have AI that's participating in warfare. So that's not World War 2.5 or anything. So yeah, Kapai developer says P crash of plane past 10 years data minus, okay, it's of the order of 0.0008. The probability of VVIP in commercial plane, etc., etc., etc. VVIP. Well, I would not call Mr. Rupani a VVIP. He is a former chief minister. But I know what you're trying to say. So the probability of both the events happening, of both independent events happening simultaneously, is of the order of 1.6 times 10 raised to minus 8, which is astronomically minuscule. Interesting. So I know what you're trying to hint, but let's not get into the territory at this point in time. You're trying to hint that there could be sabotage or something. But I think it's too early for us to reach such conclusions, even though what you're showing over here, well, I don't think that can be denied. Sarang says, grateful. Okay, thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much. Okay, all you are saying, you don't have a question. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate the contribution and the very, very kind words. And I appreciate your viewership. Thank you so much. It really means a lot. Thank you. Bharatiya says, Vedas describe Saraswati in its grandest form. Multidisciplinary science studies hint at a grand river. They don't hint, they demonstrate there was a grand river in northwest India only about 9 to 18,000 years before today. Good corroboration for some Vedic mandalas being that old. Let me show you what the deal is. The Vedas, the Rig Veda. Let's not talk about all the Vedas. Let's talk about the Rig Veda. The Rig Veda talks about the Saraswati in its grandest form. If you want to know what it says, let's go to Google. Okay, let's go to Google. Aryan invasion myth Chavda. So where is it? Where is it? What? Okay, I should just quickly go to the first link, medium.com. This is an article by me from 2017. So where is Saraswati? Saraswati. Okay. The Saraswati River is extensively mentioned in the Rig Veda, India's foundational literary text. It is referred to as the greatest of rivers, glorious, loudly roaring, and the mother of floods. This clearly refers to a mighty river in its prime, not a river in decline. This falsifies the Aryan invasion theory account that the Rig Veda was composed after a purported Aryan invasion or migration circa 1500 BC, and indicates it was composed closer to 5000 BC when the river was last in its prime, per the results of this study that I've mentioned, Sarkar et al. And so on. Okay, so the point is that the river, the great Saraswati, was last in her prime around 5000, 6000 BC, about 8000 years before today. And that's the point at which the Indian rainy season, the monsoon, starts declining slowly, gradually, monotonically. And eventually it declines to such an extent that by about 1500 AD, BC, by about 1500 BC, the Saraswati is largely dried out. It's made a huge puddle, which is now the run of Kutch and so on. And eventually also the Thar Desert. So the river was last in her prime around 8000 BC. It indicates that the Rig Veda was composed closer to 8000 BC than to 1500 BC. And it doesn't mean that it was composed 18,000 BC. Okay, you can't extrapolate that sort of thing. So what I can say is that it was composed closer to 8000 BC than to 1500 BC. Beyond that, I cannot say anything else. So I would not go in and venture that maybe the Rig Veda was written at 18,000 years before today. That is, I think, perhaps stretching it too far, and that would be, well, it could equally well have been written at around 6000 BC or 7000 BC. But what's clear is that it's the world's oldest literary text. No question about that. Kavya says, Christian missionaries are targeting Indian states like Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and Northeast state for conversion after independence. They did that, after independence. Where these states targeted as they were less affected by Mughal brutality. Why did they target these states? For example, the far eastern states, northeast states, Nagaland, etc. These were remote states where people lived in the hills and all that, tribal populations. Tribal populations have historically been far easier to convert to Christianity than populations that are not tribal and not nomadic. Also, you will find that populations that are in poverty are easier to convert by Christian missionaries just by offering rice bags. The Chinese and the Japanese wrote about this. The Chinese in the 1800s wrote about rice Christians. So the Christian missionaries, the American, British Christian missionaries, would have this practice in China. They would create conditions for famines in China, and then they would offer bags of rice to Chinese peasants as inducements to convert to Christianity. The condition was that we'll offer you this bag of rice, but we will offer you only if you convert to Christianity. So you were not being made to convert of your own free will. It was the inducement. You had no choice, otherwise you die. So that's the tactics these people have historically used. And in India, the British created horrible famines and horrible poverty. And the Nehruvian regime took a long time to do anything about these things. So it was so easy to convert poor people to Christianity, people who were starving and so on. And maybe Kerala, Tamil Nadu, maybe all of these places, they already had certain issues. That's why it was easier to start over there. So I'm not sure if there's a connection with Mughal brutality, but yeah, that's how historically the pattern has been. Vedic Post says, any good book or source on raw training? You will find no books on raw training. These things are not to be written in books. But if you want to read nasty stuff, read the CIA field manuals, etc. CIA field manuals, PDFs from the 1970s and 80s, from the time that they were running all their operations in Latin America and so on. Very nasty stuff. Vidhi says, does Israel misshow India's map to signal the US? Nah, they don't have to signal anything to the US. Absolutely not. They're signaling something to us and to the rest of the world. They don't have to signal anything to the US. Okay, Cancer says, US is crooked. Was the USSR also like that before? Big fan. Thank you, sir. Every big power is going to act hypocritically. They're going to say one thing, do another. They're going to always prioritize their own interests. It's never going to be about what's right, what's wrong, but what's best for me. So the USSR also did such things. No question about it. But overall, for India, the Russians were always better. They were always more reliable. So that's how it was historically. Strike 47 says, what are your views on Israel then? I'm unsure of how to perceive their relationship with India. From what I've seen, they've always been loving. And I have so many Jewish friends. Why do they show wrong map? Okay. Look, personal relationships have nothing to do with geopolitical relationships. Please, Indians, why are Indians so naive? You go to the US, you will find so many Pakistani taxi drivers who are so nice, very pleasant to talk to, and they'll become friends of yours. You go to various restaurants, etc., you will find Pakistanis all over the place. They'll be very nice people. You go and live in London, you will have many Pakistani neighbors. Especially those who settled down in the 20th century, they'll be nice, really nice and very cordial and very well behaved and all. Does it mean Pakistan loves India? Because these people are nice to you. Personal experience and interpersonal relationships have nothing to do with nation-to-nation relationships. Absolutely nothing. Now look at it this way. If you watch yesterday's live stream that I did, episode 5 of Geostrategy, you will see why Trump loves Pakistan so much. Because he is in the process of investing about 65, he's in the process of investing lots of money in Pakistan, and there is about $65 trillion worth of resources to be extracted out of Pakistan. So Pakistan is willing to give up their resources to Trump for plundering. And that's why Trump loves Pakistan so much. Now, Trump loves Israel very much. Trump is a huge supporter of Israel. And the US is Israel's number one ally. And Israel is also the US's number one ally. So it's a mutual partnership these two nations have. So Israel and US are each other's number one ally. US has a top vassal in the Indian subcontinent, which is Pakistan. So if US is favorably inclined towards Pakistan, and Israel and US have this alliance of number one ally, then the question is, what is Israel's relationship with Pakistan? They don't have diplomatic relations. But have you seen Israel ever do a thing against Pakistan? They will talk. Talk is cheap. I want to see actions. What actions? Give me an example of some hard actions Israel has taken in the past about Pakistan, against Pakistan. I'll wait forever. Right? Now, Israel has been very good for India. We have a good strategic partnership, right? We have various defense agreements. We are developing various technologies jointly and all. So it's great. It's a great partnership overall. But Israel has this history of showing the wrong Indian map. There's also the question of Manipur. A large number of cookie infiltrators have become Israeli citizens by claiming to be of Jewish origin when there is 0% Jewish DNA in these people, and they love eating pork. But they have succeeded in becoming Israeli citizens. And Israel had this conversion program going on, in which they would officially baptize, or whatever it is the Jewish religion does, to make someone officially Jewish. And they've brought in a lot of cookies who are now living in Israel. And these cookies who are now Israeli citizens have been caught supporting the cookie terrorism in Manipur. And recently I know that the Israelis had brought in some Indian influencers to Israel on a tour of Israel, okay? And they had these Indian influencers meet a cookie rabbi to talk about Manipur. Now that's direct government interference in Indian affairs, Indian internal affairs, right? A cookie rabbi was brought to meet the Indian influencers and talk about Manipur. Who the hell is that cookie Israeli rabbi to talk about Manipur? What business does he have doing it? So there are many issues in the India-Israel relationship. Overall, it's a great relationship, but there are issues. So my friends, you may have a couple of Jewish friends. I'm sure you have good relations with them. It doesn't mean that everything is great. Of course, India also doesn't always vote in favor of Israel when it comes to various resolutions. India typically abstains or votes against Israel when it comes to various resolutions in the UN about Palestine and so on and so forth. So you have to understand it's a complicated relationship. It's not all love and happiness and all that. Full support, sir, like Indians do. Indians, what can I say? They're so incredibly immature. And so that's the deal. That's what I can tell you. Rahul Ladu says, Make in India didn't succeed as much as we expected. What policy should India implement now? Rephrase. Make in India is working. It takes time. There are lots of problems in India, lots of internal problems, but we cannot say it did not succeed, because until today it's not brought all the results that we wanted. We're going to keep on persevering. We're going to make it work. Right? So what policies should India implement? We should make it easier to do business in India, first of all. It is pretty difficult, even for Indians, to conduct business in India. All kinds of regulatory roadblocks and red tape and allegedly corruption, etc. Right? Land acquisition is such a problem. If you are a foreign company or a foreign entity or investor, you want to invest in India, and if you want to acquire land, it's a nightmare for you. You go to China, they will roll out the red carpet for you as if you're a VVIP. In India, they will ask you to fill up 78 forms in triplicate. So all these things need to be dealt with, right? So if you do all of this stuff, then it will be easier for foreigners and etc. people to invest in India. And that's one of the big things we need to do. Kapai developer says, how does one counter leverage, both from an individual and national perspective standpoint? You counter leverage by having leverage, by developing leverage of your own. So that's what you do. So, for example, what leverage does the US have over India? They have East Pakistan and West Pakistan. Both are their vassals. They have other nations that also belong to them. They have unleashed mayhem in Manipur via Myanmar, because they are running a proxy civil war in Myanmar. So they have so many points of leverage on India. So what can India do about this? Now, India doesn't have the leverage right now of running similar operations in the US backyard. It's not possible, right? So, but if India wants to counter this, then India needs to become more powerful such that we can also do such things to the US. Then they will behave. So when it comes to China, okay, the Americans have imposed all kinds of tariffs on the Chinese. So that's the leverage they have over the Chinese, right? So how did the Chinese respond? They have restricted exports of rare earth minerals and magnets and all that to the US. They control about 95% of the world's supply. That's a huge leverage they have, and that's why the Americans have brought the Chinese to the negotiating table. They said, okay, you have leverage. Now we need to find a solution. Now the Chinese have imposed these restrictions on India also, but India doesn't have leverage over China. So what you have to do is you have to develop your own leverage over other countries. If you become a much, much larger market that everybody needs, and that's a leverage you have over others. If you have a massive navy, then you can bully other nations by saying that, look, my navy will turn up tomorrow morning at your doorstep with these many aircraft and these many soldiers. Then what will you do? And so on. So you have to develop your own different ways of applying leverage on other countries. That's what you do. That's from a national perspective. Now you can bring it down to the individual perspective also. So that's what you do, sir. MK says, what could the UK have done differently to remain as an empire superpower? Second, what was responsible for Germany becoming a technological power in the 20th century? What was the cause for Germany becoming such a technological power in the 20th century? Educational reforms. They completely revamped. First of all, in 1871, this artificial new nation of Germany was created for the first time ever. Before that, there was no Germany ever. Then they wanted to become a massive European power, so they created the kind of education system that was focused on science and research and technology, and they made it completely meritocratic, and they ensured that the system identifies the best talent and rewards the best talent. And they also became a major industrial nation, because of which you would need to source the best, brightest talent from the education system. So all of that caused this great technological blooming in Germany, and that's why it became a great technological power. The roots of this success lie in the 19th century. What could the UK have done differently to remain as an empire superpower? They should have ensured that Germany doesn't rise. That's one thing they could have done, and many other things like. At the end of the day, they were overstretched, and the US suddenly emerged as this great power, and there's nothing they could have done to prevent that. So I think the UK's time was done, essentially. Ayers Manticore says, speaking of unofficial foreign lobbies in India, isn't it suspicious that bureaucrats of DRDO and HAL keep messing up projects and deals until 2014, even after which it took 10 years to straighten up? Well, if there is any such thing, it would be kept under wraps. It would be classified information. So I can't really comment much about that. But you know what? It's true that we've had so many problems. And the current government of Mr. Modi has probably had to take years, more than a decade, to straighten things. I'm sure they're still in the process of straightening out various things. And I'm sure there still is a lot of foreign influence within India in various ways. Okay? But I'm not aware of any specifics, so I cannot speak about that. I cannot comment about that. Rahul says, since Make in India did not succeed as much as we expected, what policies should India implement now? I think I answered your question. That India needs to implement various reforms. which will make it easier to do business in India, which will make it easier to have contracts enforced, which will make it easier to acquire land in India, which will make it less cumbersome a process to set up a company and run a company. There should be less red tape, there should be less alleged corruption, and so on and so forth. These are the things India needs to do. Okay. Krishna, thank you very much, sir. Harshay says, as innocent, simple men's slashed like vegetables in today's time, should men convert their personality to alpha? What's your thoughts, experience, etc.? You can't change your personality. You have the personality you're born with. Today's world in India especially is terrible. The laws are all biased against men, and men are victimized. No question about it. It's true. It's true. So what should men do? Well, you have to be careful. You have to be careful you don't get exploited. You have to do your due diligence when marrying somebody. Today, the old system of getting married has been thrown out, right? Especially in big cities, you just find some girl and you fall in love with her and you marry her. And then very often you may have to face certain consequences. In the past, the families used to do the due diligence about the antecedents of the person you are proposing to get married to. So they would look into the person, they would look into the person's family, they would look into the person's ancestry and see the kind of behavioral traits they've demonstrated over time. That gives you a very solid idea of what kind of person this could be, and so on. That's gone now, so that's a problem. What should you do today? You should be as careful as possible. But you can't really change your personality. That's faking it. You won't be able to fake it forever. Krishna says, is Iran with nuclear weapons a threat to India? That's always a possibility. Any nation in the neighborhood with nuclear weapons could be a threat, which is why it will be best for us to have a world in which Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons. Mayank says, in USA, Hindus are rich class. Why don't they use their wealth to counter anti-India, anti-Hindu sentiments by using their wealth? Because Hindus by nature are not a politically oriented people. Hindus don't unite the way the Abrahamics unite. Hindus are very different from each other. I mean, you take 10 Hindus, they'll be as different from each other as any other people in the world. So it's never been the nature of Hindus to unite politically. And Hindus have so many differences. They have different kinds of cuisines, they have different kinds of lifestyles, they have different kinds of languages, they have different approaches and attitudes to life, and so on and so forth. So the Hindus are very different. It's a very diverse country we live in. And that's why it's so hard for Hindus to unite. And that's why Hindus don't unite outside of India. Inferno JES says, Trump versus Biden, who is the lesser of two evils for India? Looks like Biden was the lesser of the two evils. Doesn't it look like that today? It does. Putin's ideology, says Cancer. Is he a communist? Does Russia love Lenin? Putin is not a communist. Putin is a nationalist. I don't think he's a big fan of Lenin, but he loves Russia and he's a big nationalist. Sergeant Skyland says, lol, did Parshuram not meet with Rama? Regarding the same gods not being able to meet with each other, yeah, I am not aware of. This is not my cup of tea. Who did meet whom and all? Was Parshuram an incarnation of Lord Vishnu? Apparently, did he meet Rama? Okay, well, this is for you guys to discuss. Okay, this is not for me. I'm not taking these questions. Varalika says, Varalika, what a nice name. If they would have shown a Hindu god in the Thor movie, Indians would have gone crazy and some controversy would have happened. Well, that's also true. Indians love controversies. Indians love to be upset about things. Indians love to, yeah. I'm sure Indians would have protested that you do not show our god right. You're right about that. Proud Odia says, can Baloch get free now? US wants its resources. We'll see. I've seen you somewhere. If the US wants Balochi resources, Balochistan will not be free for the next 1,000 years. So, Pratham Soni says, suppose you want to give us 5 habits for raising our standards long term. What will it be? Physical fitness. You need to have a physical fitness routine. Lifting weights, not just walking and running. Okay, walking is great. Walk 10,000 steps a day, like they say. But you need to lift weights like 3-4 times a week at least and get strong. That's one. Eat good food. Don't eat food that did not exist 1,000 years ago. I'm saying, but even I do that. But okay. So good diet. What else? Pranayam and yoga is great. So that's number three. Um, read, read and think. Don't read what's in your curriculum. The curriculum books will rot your brain. Read books beyond that. I know it's tedious, it's time consuming, it hurts your mind to read, but read. Please read. And fifth, I would say, uh, make money. Find ways of making money. Making money is good. It's not bad. It's not evil. Indians hate somebody making money, but I would say go and make money and get rich. Get as rich as possible and use it for something good for society. So that's perhaps five things you could do. Jagan says, why the US and Israel allowed Pakistan to have nuclear weapons? They know that Pakistan is an unreliable asset against India. Pakistan is bad for India. That's why they allowed this to happen. The Israelis had this plan. They had this plan with India of destroying the Pakistani nuclear reactor sometime in the 1980s. But at the last moment, the Israelis pulled out of it. And I now believe that the Pakistanis actually have US nuclear bombs. I don't think the Pakistanis have the IQ to develop nuclear warheads of their own. Okay, you can see what they've done with other technologies. They don't have the brains to do it. I think the Americans gave Pakistan American nuclear warheads. I think that's what the Pakistanis have. Ashish XP says, what would happen to the world if Abraham Lincoln were alive today? How might the world be different? Many consider him to be one of the greatest presidents. Please understand one thing. Abraham Lincoln was not some kind of saint. Read his life history and read some of the nasty things he did. How many Native Americans did he string up because they were brown, and so on? But he was good for the US. You know, the American South seceded from the Union. Do you know that the American South seceded democratically from the Union of the United States? They opted to partition the country and create a separate country, and they did this democratically. And Abraham Lincoln acted undemocratically by invading the South and starting the Civil War. Please don't just absorb whatever you're taught without thinking. And now people will say that I'm trying to revise history. Everybody loves somebody who just conforms with all the accepted so-called knowledge and wisdom. I'm not one of those people. You have to look at the world critically. What does it mean to look at the world critically? It means that you have to question everything. Only then can you actually find truths in the world. Otherwise, you will only absorb lies. Abraham Lincoln did nasty things also. But of course, without him, the US would not exist in the shape and form that it does today. That's why they consider him to be one of the greatest presidents. But he was not a saint. And so on. So what would happen if he was alive today? Maybe the US will act exactly the way it's acting right now. Aries Manticore says, some US experts claim Christianity is spreading silently in Iran. Experts? Which experts? Isn't it atheism? Is there any basis for this? What should Iran do to avoid South Korea's fate? Iran should go back to Zoroastrianism. And Iran should ensure that it doesn't become a US vassal. Otherwise, it will end up in the same way that South Korea is ending up right now. I don't know about this Christianity thing. I am aware of the claims that there is atheism that's spreading in Iran. Many Iranians want to go back to the roots, but they don't know how to. So maybe India can help with that, perhaps, or not. We'll see. But I am not aware of what the real truth is inside Iran. Abhishek says, was Nehru's power transfer a smart move, knowing that India was weak and the West had nukes? Had Bose's path worked, could India have been a target? So you're saying that, keeping your head down and remaining weak is a smart move. Which West had nukes? Only the US had nukes. Only the US had nukes, right, at that point in time. And if Bose's path would have worked, then India would have been a powerful country in a few years. Of course, that would possibly have made India a target. But if India then played its game well, if India plays its card right, then India could have been multi-aligned instead of becoming a US vassal or a USSR vassal. So transferring power to a person who is going to take your country down the road of weakness is never a smart move. Never. Okay, I don't know how to read this name. In my opinion, this thing between Iran and Israel was long expected. How do you think we should move in this game? Kudos to the PRC, as the US will use their great ally come self-service perceived slave as a ground staging ground against Iran. What's the question? How do you think we should move in this game? India should stay out of this game. This doesn't concern India. Of course, if Iran gets destroyed, it does concern India. But India is in no position to get involved in this matter. So it's very simple. What should India's position be in this? India should urge both sides to go to the negotiating table and stop fighting. This is not a time for war. This is what we should tell Iran and Israel. But we are in no position to get involved in this matter. So we should stay out of it, and we should urge peace. We should urge restraint. That's what our position should be. Hardik says, what mistakes is India making economically, politically, and culturally right now, despite the economic rise? Culturally, the mistake we're making, look, economically, politically, culturally, I can't answer at the same time. I'll take the cultural question. What India should do is reform the education system so that the quality of the Indian population rises, the mental quality, the critical thinking ability, all of that. Right now, our population is a bunch of sheep who don't think, but who think they know everything. We need to reform the education system. And we need to bring our culture back in the forefront, in the thick of things. Right now, we are a secular nation, right? It's a disaster for India. It's killing our culture. The education system needs to be reformed so that we teach our culture to our children. We need to stop emphasizing foreign languages. We should have our education only in our mother tongue. We should make Sanskrit the national language of India, the civilizational language of India. The main language of education should be Sanskrit, and the mother tongue should also be taught. And English should not be taught. Otherwise, you'll end up like me, a person who can speak better in a foreign language than in our own languages. So that's one thing we should do. And there's so much more that needs to happen. Culturally, we need to become, we need to decolonize. And that's a whole big thing. I can't answer in 2-3 minutes or 5 minutes. But yeah, start with the education system. It needs to be reformed, and nothing is being done right now, which is very disappointing. Shiva Rajput says, why doesn't India use strong narrative warfare like Israel, especially when Pakistan openly burns flags of India, US and Israel threaten our security, etc., all that? Yeah, we can certainly use more strong narrative warfare like Israel. Israel struck at Iran and then put out proper, well-crafted, well-narrated a perspective on Twitter and social media, all that. We tend to like these big conference rooms and that was also quite effective. Our generals and military leaders putting out the thing, but it makes sense to go on social media and do a social media PR blitz. That's something we can learn from Israel for sure. So I agree with you, sir. Anonymous says, I'm doing well, sir. Thank you. I hope you're doing well also. Should we patent our inventions or not, since there's a chance they could be copied? Best way to preserve inventions? Well, I haven't invented anything as such. I'm a theoretician, not a practical guy. So I don't know, but it makes sense to patent your inventions. Otherwise, people will copy them. The world is full of plagiarists. And if you make something good, the chances are 100% that the moment somebody sees it, they'll copy it. So the best thing is to patent all your inventions. And if somebody still copies it, take them to court. That's it. Nikhil says, your thoughts. Is the recent German defense budget push, is it more aimed towards securing its own position in Europe than to fight with an external enemy? I think there's an element of both. So Germany has historically been the engine that drives the European economy, and it's historically been the major European military power. Now, after 1945, things went very sideways for Germany, and it became occupied by the US, and it's still been kind of in the center of things economically and militarily for NATO and the EU. So this defense budget push could be aimed at kind of towards restoring its old position as the Reich that was at the center of Europe, yes. And also, if you have the specter of an external enemy, then it helps you bolster your case for a budgetary hike. And as it's actually Trump who is pushing for a budgetary hike, military budget hike for the European nations. No more freebies for you guys. Your budgets were used to be used to be less than 2% of your GDP. Now it has to be 5% of your GDP. So maybe the whole of Europe is going in that direction now. But yeah, there could be some element of what you're saying over here. Okay, I'm gonna end this in a few minutes now. So please stop asking more super chat questions. Please stop it. Okay, I'm gonna take whatever is there and nothing more. So it's ending soon. US has been harping about China doing agro-terrorism. Was there any instance of a measured terrorism being done on India by Pakistan and its impact? I am not aware of any agro-terrorism, as far as I know, done by Pakistan on India. It's an interesting question because it's something that can certainly be attempted by Pakistan. But I have not researched this and I'm not aware of any such instances. If there are such instances and somebody knows about it, please put it in the comments below. Shubham says, why is it that India is often criticized for his actions while Israel, taking even bolder steps, faces little or no backlash? Isn't this clear double standards? Indians love to complain about double standards. The world is filled with hypocrisy and double standards. Of course you are right. Of course it's clear double standards. And that is exactly the way the world works, through double standards. Rules for you but not for me. That's how it works. So why is Israel never criticized? Because it is the primary number one ally of the US. And it is run by white folks. It has a majority brown population, but it is run by white folks, Israel. And we are a nation of brown-skinned people, so we get criticized, and they don't. Double standards, but that's the way the world works. Vivek says, are there more lost cities like Dwarka? Thoughts? Thoughts? I can give you facts. Kaveri Pumpatnam, on the east coast of India, near Pondicherry, at a depth of about 100 meters below the ocean. They've discovered the city. It is most likely the ancient Kaveri Pumpatnam of the Sangam era. And there's many more like these on the east coast, on the west coast. There's a whole Gulf of Khambat archaeological complex, a network of sunken cities at a depth below the sea level, such that the cities were last above sea level at least 10-12,000 years before today. And the cities are laid out in a grid structure like Manhattan. Goosebumps, yes. Vamshi Kalam says, we are not a major power hypocrite though. We are not a major power yet. So that's why we are not a hypocrite nation. See, we are not a major power. There are only three major powers: the US, China, and Russia. We are not comparable to these three nations right now. And that's why we are not in a position to be hypocritical. The ability to be a hypocrite is a privilege that comes with power. We still don't have that much power. We are a rising power for sure. We're the fourth most powerful nation, but we are like, China is about 3.5 times more powerful than us right now. So, okay, B. Mandav says, we say that all knowledge was stolen from India and Westerners use that knowledge to advance them. Why can't we use that knowledge now to advance ourselves? Or is this a lie? See, we should use all this knowledge to advance ourselves. All the knowledge of the world is available essentially for free online, right? So why can't we reacquire all the knowledge and use it to advance ourselves? Because that takes hard work, and for that you need a good system and so on. So it is not the fault of the Indian citizens, it's the fault of the Indian government if things are not going well and if we are still lagging behind in certain sectors. So yeah, that's what I can say. It's not a lie. It's not a lie at all the knowledge was stolen from us. It has been digested and now they are teaching the same knowledge to us. There is something called pranayam. You know what the West calls it? They call it either cardiac coherence breathing or box breathing. And they put it on Twitter and X and social media as if it's something they have invented. So they have stolen the knowledge, they've digested it, and now they're repackaging it and rebranding it in different ways, and they're presenting it as their own invention. So that is not a lie, it's absolutely true. The point is, if we want to stay ahead of everybody, we have to create more knowledge. For that, we need a good education system, which is not there. So it's all the fault of the government of India. Abhinav says, Sorry. No. Prashant Kumar says Indians are naive and soft, so they become easy target. Being naive makes you the best target in the world. Indians are super naive about the way the world works. Full support, sir. Full support. So easy to fool you if you have that attitude. Full support for whoever. So yeah, that's why it's so easy to target Indians. Ares Manticore says Europe is being slowly consumed by illegal migrants. If it reaches an extreme, will the Christians do another crusade or witch trials? Will the Vatican relocate? And this should be the neo Eurotribe war. I think the Vatican will relocate to India. They are trying their best to completely convert India, right? There are industrial scale mass conversions happening in Punjab, in various other parts of India. The government is acting like what's her name? Gandhari, I selectively blind, right? So the Vatican, I think they are losing Europe. The Europeans are done with Christianity. So the Vatican wants to relocate to India. Maybe by 2100, the Vatican Church will be based somewhere in India, and our descendants will be doing all that, whatever that is. Vedic Post says, is Mossad and CIA better than RAW? From outside, how do I know, sir? How do I know? I am not a member of either of these organizations, so I don't know how they work. And if I was in one of these three organizations, then I would have intelligence about the other two. But I am not. So I cannot answer the question. Okay? I know that you would love me to say, Dekho, hum sabse mahan desh hai, and our CIA or our RAW is better than Mossad. There are all these Indian YouTubers who do that. I am not one of those. My answer is very simple. I don't know. Okay, Lakshay Akhil says, I am fond of Arabian civilizations, especially Petra, the world wonder, and Hegra, built by Bedouin Nabatean Arabs, early Arabic speakers, and ancestors of northern Saudis and Jordanians. Do you know that these were polytheistic cultures that built all this? Do you know that? You know that? Yeah, they have wonderful architecture. Petra is beautiful. Of course, they say don't be there at night because apparently stuff happens and so on. The Arabs had wonderful culture. Even now, many of the Arabs have wonderful culture and so on. You have to be open-minded. I think there are lots of wonderfully nice Arabs too in the world, okay? And I think India and the Arabic countries are building a very good set of relationships. So, and so on. So, yeah, you're right. Petra is wonderful. Hegra, I'm not sure, but okay, I'll check it out. Okay, Vidhi says, what is Israel trying to signal to India by misshowing India's map? Israel is telling India that, you know what, you guys don't vote for us in the United Nations sometimes. Sometimes you vote against us, so we will do this stuff to you. You are naughty, we will also be naughty. VS says, please explain why the F-35 aircraft is a useless piece of crap. Also, do you know any books to understand US deep state or MIC? Read The Devil's Chessboard. Okay, read that. The Devil's Chessboard by forget the name. That's one book you can read, which is very interesting. It's about the three-letter agencies of the US. Why is the F-35 aircraft a useless piece of crap? They spent so much money to make it. It was delayed over and over and over again. It overshot all of its constraints, all of the budgets, and they still could not make it work. And it is overly large. It doesn't have a good radar cross section apparently, and it crashes all too often, and so on. So overall, it's not a good plane. The F-22 Raptor is probably the best plane in the world. The real high quality plane they have is the F-22 Raptor. The F-35 is crap. The F-22 is a piece of art. It's a work of art. And they don't export it to anybody, no matter how much you're willing to pay. The F-22 is the real deal. Not the F-35. Garbage. Devansh says, your views on the death of Robert Clive, amassed great riches through corruption, became the world's richest guy. Then he slit his throat, murder or suicide. A man who conquered a lot of India. How did he do that? Can he do that? I haven't studied Robert Clive's life history. The past 1,000 years of Indian history, I haven't studied it in great depth because it is history of misery and foreign occupation. And I have never been interested in individuals like Robert Clive. I have rather preferred to study world history. So yeah, see, the recent Indian history is not my forte. The history of the Indian freedom struggle and the history of Mr. Gandhi and Mr. Ambedkar and Mr. Nehru and the details of their lives and Clive and all, not my thing. Sorry. Uh, what's the process of denuclearizing a country? First, you do regime change. You install a regime that is a puppet of yours, and then you get the nukes. That's the process of denuclearizing a country. Or just Jita Singh Kashyapa says, has there ever been a real proper gene study that proves the Aryan invasion migration story? And is R1A1A not found in South India? The Aryan invasion migration theory has nothing to do with genetics, my dear friends. Let me tell you why. What is the central claim of the Aryan invasion migration theory? It has two central claims. First, Sanskrit is foreign to India. Second, Hinduism is foreign to India. Okay? Sanskrit and Hinduism are foreign to India. These are the central claims of the Aryan invasion theory. How can you prove or disprove that with genetics? If you take my DNA, can it tell you what language I speak? What my mother tongue is? Can it tell you what my religion is? It can't. If, let's say, I become mad tomorrow and I convert to a foreign Abrahamic religion, for example, will my DNA change because I converted? Or let's say from tomorrow I decide to speak Russian only. Will my DNA change because of that? DNA has nothing to do with the central claims of the Aryan invasion migration myth. So, no matter how much DNA research you do, it's not going to change anything. Right? And is R1A1A not found in South India? They find there is plenty of R1A1A in South India, even in the far east of India, all across India. It's all over the place. Okay? Right. Prashant Kumar says, top economist says UM would weaken IN. Is it if it rises? What's UM? University of Mexico. UM. What's UM? I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I'm sure you're trying to put some flags there, but I'm not able to see them here. Sorry. Milurin says, many Boeing jets fail. Still, why do airlines buy it? I think they used to buy Boeing jets back in the day, and all those orders are still coming in. And the performance issues and these recent issues of Boeing are a rather new thing, just in the past few years, because the standards have declined. Rahul Ladu says, your thoughts on Madam President issuing inquiry on ex-CGI? I have no idea, and I don't talk about internal politics. So, not my cup of tea. Tejas says, I hope you're well, Tejas. I heard about you had some health issues. I hope you're doing well, sir. Do well. Can AI lead to extinction of humanity? Well, if you give AI agency, and if that AI is super intelligent or even AGI, then it can lead to the extinction of humanity. If AI decides that we are a nuisance and a burden to the planet, and we give it agency, which means the tools to make real world changes in the world, then yeah, it can lead to the extinction of humanity. So if you give AI access to real world systems, like weapons systems, like decision making systems, like big red buttons and all that, yeah, it can certainly lead to the extinction of humanity. Dheeraj says, what should India do to stop Trump's Pakistan assistance? Can we still break it apart despite his business interests there? What should India do to stop Trump's Pakistan assistance? Nothing. We cannot do anything. He is hell-bent on investing in Pakistan. He has about $65 trillion to extract from there, which includes cryptocurrency investments, which includes rare earth minerals, and oil and gas and whatnot. So he is investing his own money into Pakistan. And once he has decided to do that, what can we do about it? So one thing that can dissuade Trump from investing in Pakistan is if Pakistan becomes super unstable. I'm not suggesting anything here. I'm just saying. Okay. Devansh says, always wanted to know your thoughts about Jim Corbett. He was a poacher. He killed tigers. Reading him out, he looks like a naturalist, but history is often distorted. Also, do you like going to safaris? I have never had time to go to safaris. Sorry, I would love to. I would love to see lions and tigers, but I'm always busy doing some work. Jim Corbett was a poacher. He used to kill tigers. Evil guy. United Alliances, India can use IVF method to stabilize TFR ratio, or we can do it the good old fashioned way. Okay. Nikhil says recent larger increase in German budget. Do you think the reason behind this is to secure Germany's position in Europe after America shifts its focus? America is likely to shift its focus to the Indo-Pacific. Yes, and therefore, if that happens and America gets tired of Europe, then the Americans want to leave Europe in a big shambles. They don't want Europe to ever rise again, because when they think of the rise of Europe, they mentally see those marching jackboats and the Hugo Boss uniforms of the Third Reich, right? So they don't want this to happen. So they want Europe to be in a complete state of disrepair and shambles when they leave, which is why they are pushing in millions and trillions and gazillions of certain kinds of immigrants into Europe. That's what the Americans, their end game is, their exit strategy is. But yes, Germany wants to increase its budget, so maybe the thinking could be that if America kind of takes its focus away from Europe, then maybe we can have the next big Reich, and we could be the next big power in Europe once again. Maybe it's a possibility. Kuro says, can or should India create a military branch like USMC, Marine Corps, for rapid response or invasion? To my knowledge, India only has 3 naval infantry battalions that may be outdated. Chinese, by the way, has 7 brigades. I could not agree with you more, sir. India should have a Marine Corps. India should have expeditionary capabilities. India should have amphibious landing vessels. India should have these things. India lacks these things. We have the Marcos, which are Marine commandos, but they're not a Marine Corps. We should have a Marine Corps. You are completely right. And I'm glad you brought this up over here today. India should have expeditionary capabilities. Mistral class ships or whatever. We can buy them from the French if required, and so on. Amphibious landing ships, big ships in which you can, have amphibious tanks and whatnot, all kinds of things you can bring in for a landing operation. Let's say tomorrow morning we decide that we will land in Karachi with 10,000 troops and 500 tanks. I'm just throwing out rough numbers. So after suppressing the local air defenses and other defenses, we should have these capabilities. Amphibious capabilities, marine expeditionary capabilities. You raise a very good point. I agree. We should have it. MK says, despite having the largest empire and global resources, why was Britain shaken and on the defensive against Germany in World War II? Germany was hit hard in World War I. Germany was hit hard in World War I. Germany was humiliated in the Treaty of Versailles, but Germany was not destroyed. So there was an interwar period between 1918 approximately to 1939, 21 years, in which Germany rebuilt. The rebuilding started with the coming to power of the painter, and he transformed the German economy and all that. And what happened is that Germany had a tremendous education system focused on science and technology, and that's why they were able to leverage that, weaponize that, and create this gigantic high-tech military machine, the best technology of its time. And they just churned out airplanes and Messerschmitts and Focke-Wulfes and Henkels and Stukas and the Tiger tanks and whatnot, and U-boats, Unterseeboots, in so many large numbers. So that's why Britain was shaken and on the defensive. They had never expected Germany to put up all of this. That's what happened. Purushottam says, what was the point of attacking Russia's bombers? Well, to decimate their air fleet, their strategic bombing capabilities. It's a worthy aim if you're an adversary of Russia. I mean, if you can take out 30% of the strategic bomber fleet, I mean, this is a huge, huge achievement. It makes Russia look weak in front of the world. It undermines the morale of the country. It shakes the confidence of the leadership in the military. Come on. What's the point? Are you kidding me? Anshul says, how to develop iron will? By putting yourself regularly in difficult positions and doing things that are uncomfortable for you, and still doing it. You do it over and over again, then you will develop an iron will. Nanda Kishore says, how much does it cost for a private dinner for you? I am not available on rent, sir. It costs way too much. It costs. I'm not available like that for a private dinner. Sorry. Varun says, Jai Hind from a Dogra from Jammu. Jai Hind, sir. Do you think making Jammu province a separate state and making Kashmir province a permanent union territory can be good? I think it is the right way forward. It is the only correct way forward. Make Jammu province a separate state and make the valley of Kashmir, this little thing, a permanent union territory. That is the right way forward. Ladakh can be a separate union territory. It already is. But why merge Jammu with the Kashmir Valley, with Kashmir province? Make Kashmir a separate permanent union territory and make Jammu a separate state. That is the right way forward. I completely agree with you, sir. Okay, Adit Kumar says, what's your thoughts on 500,000 Chinese students coming to the US this year is announced by Trump? Did he bend the knee to Xi? We'll see. It's an ongoing situation. Trump is the master of the art of the deal. He's the biggest, baddest, greatest negotiator in the world. It's all transaction for him. So we don't know what it means thus far. We'll look into it and we'll see what it really means. Will he actually allow 500,000 Chinese students into the US? I doubt it. We'll see about that. Trump won't bend the knee to Xi. He's got too big of an ego for that to happen. So, we'll see. Okay, ladies, gentlemen, friends, all of you, this is the end of today's live stream. It went way past what we expected, 1.5 hours plus. So I will end it over here. Thank you, everybody, for all the questions. I really enjoyed this. It was good fun. I think I'm glad I switched the super chats back on again. I think it was better. Okay, so I will have another live stream tomorrow. Tomorrow, Saturday, I think it is. It is. We're gonna have a proper live stream tomorrow, long one. And I'll take your questions again over there. So I look forward to having you on that live stream. I look forward to taking your questions, answering them. And as always, keep asking questions, keep learning, keep thinking, keep questioning, and keep raising your standards. I'll see you very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.